When I think back to when I first really started to read, well, as far back as I can remember, I remember kindergarten. I was living in Miami, and my grandparents found out that I was really starting to get into reading, and I was really young. So they sent me hooked on phonics to try to jumpstart me so that I could get even more ahead. And when I talked to my dad, he said that after first grade, I just never stopped reading. He said that I would read under the covers in the middle of the night, and it was his idea. And he just said that once I became a reader, I always read. When I asked my grandma about me first starting to read, she told me that I picked it up so quickly that I amazed them. I told her at such a young age that I liked to read because I liked that it took me places. And that's something that she described as being hard for a young child to do, being able to read and to understand what you're reading. My first real thoughts about my writing starting out started like any child with the tablet books that had a picture that you drew and you wrote underneath them. But when I actually think about writing, I think about like late elementary school, middle school, when I used to write stories. I started really young, and my grandparents and my dad used to read them and they'd give me feedback. They even still do it now. I just think of a topic and I run with it. And I've always been able to do that, especially fiction. I love to read fiction and I love to write it. Before Bryant and reading her reading about sponsors of literacy, I never really thought about materials in the way that she describes them, or even that I had a sponsor of literacy or any institutions that had developed my literacy. But thinking about it now, I know that, well, I had school like any other child, but my family was a big sponsor of literacy for me. My grandmother has surrounded me by books ever since I was little. My grandfather bought me my first Hooked on Phonics. My mom always bought me books, and my dad always encouraged my writing. So they were really big on literacy and keeping me in school and pushing me to do more. Being literate and going to school and pushing to do more has always been a big part of my life because my parents had me when they were very young, so they didn't really get to finish their education. So ever since I was little, I've been striving to do more than they did and to push myself. Growing up, I was always so shy that my books became my crutch. They were my safety blanket, how I got through everything. I know when I think back, I remember reading every Harry Potter, and my grandma remembers me flying through them. I would read them in a day, and I reread them 100 times. And it was always just the one thing I can turn to, my stories in my notebooks that I kept, and my books. I had double-stacked bookshelves since I was really, really little. Since I was so young when I learned to read and I excelled so quickly, and I'm the oldest of my siblings, I taught almost all of them how to read, especially my youngest sister, who is 10 years younger than me. And I helped her read, and she reads to me every time I go home, and it was a major part of my life helping her. Since I started college, I've been thinking about reading and writing in a different way than I did in high school. In high school, it was really different because I'm from New York, and when I came down here, the curriculum was so much different, and it was a major change because everything was so much easier here than it was in New York. And in college, I've learned to read major chapters of a textbook the night before a test, and I use writing majorly when I work and writing logs and taking notes for class and writing papers, and it's just fundamental in college, but it also is helping towards my major. And since I'm going to have to write a lot of paperwork and use writing and literacy skills once I start working with children, it's just going to be a major part of my life, and it always has been. When I think about the goals that I've set for myself in the past and those that I wish to accomplish in the future, I think that I've definitely met the standards that I had set for myself for literacy and reading and education and how far I pushed myself. And I just hope that I can keep doing it for the future.